Hi everyone and welcome to another video. My name is Tash and I am the owner of the sewing pattern brand NH Patterns. In this video I will be showing you how to make the Jenny shorts using the Jenny shorts pattern. The pattern will be linked in the description if you are interested in making these shorts for yourself. First we need to assemble the pattern. This pattern in particular is still in the older style and is not currently layered, but by the time you watch this video it may well be, so don't worry if yours looks slightly different to the video. I will link a detailed video on how to print and cut your pattern in the description box below. To assemble my pattern I have cut along the bottom and right hand edges of each page around the border, and I am now matching the numbered and lettered circles as accurately as possible, then taping the pages together. Try to be as accurate as possible here, as if your pattern is slightly off on one page it could then throw off the rest of the pattern. Once the pattern is taped together, we need to find the line that corresponds with our size. See the sizing chart in the instructions booklet to determine your UK size, then find the line that corresponds to this size on the pattern. Remember, all of our patterns are written in UK sizing, even the US letter paper size. Find the right line for your size and then cut along this line for all of your pattern pieces. You should have 3 pattern pieces, a front, a back and a waistband. Now we need to cut our fabric. Start by folding your fabric in half with right sides together, matching up the selvage edges. Here you can see the selvage on the right of the video and the fold on the left. Place either your front or back onto the fabric, making sure the grain line runs parallel with your selvage. You can test this by measuring from your grain line to your selvage all the way along the grain line to make sure the measurement is the same throughout. Remember to also check your cutting plan for your fabric width in the pattern instructions booklet. This will advise you on how to place your pattern pieces in order to use the least amount of fabric. Once you have placed your first piece, use weights or pins to keep the pattern piece in place. Then cut around the pattern piece. You could place all of your pattern pieces on your fabric first rather than one at a time, as this makes sure that you have enough fabric and allows you to move the pieces more freely. In my case, I cut one at a time as it made it a little easier to show you how to do it in the video. We can now get started on sewing the shorts. You can see here that we have 2 front pieces, as it states on the pattern to cut a pair. Keep your pieces together with right sides facing each other and pin your crotch seam. Put this aside for the moment and now move on to the back pieces. We need to do exactly the same here and pin the crotch together with right sides of the fabric facing. Take both of your front and back pieces over to the machine. Starting at the top waist edge, sew your front shorts together along the crotch using a 1 cm seam allowance, and remember to backstitch at the beginning and end. Overlock this seam, also known as serging. You could also use a zigzag stitch or picking shears if you don't have an overlocker. Then repeat these steps on the back shorts. Your back shorts should now look like this. Press your seam to the right as you are looking at it. Your front shorts should look like this. Press your seam to the left as you are looking at it. Pressing these opposite ways ensures they face the same way when we join them in a moment. Next, place your front on top of your back with right sides together. First, match up one of the sides and pin together. Then, pin together the other side also. Once you have pinned both sides, match up your front and back crotch seam. Pin together at the centre seam and then continue to pin either side of your inside leg, making sure that your seams are facing the same way at the centre. Using a 1 cm seam allowance, sew your side seams and your inside leg seam. Remember to backstitch at the beginning and end of every seam. You can now see which is the front and which is the back by looking at the crotch. You can see here that this is the front as it has a shorter crotch seam. You can then see that this side is the back as the crotch seam is longer and continues round to the front. This allows more room in the back of the shorts for certain body parts. Next, we need to overlock these seams. Overlock both side seams and your inside leg seam, then press these towards the back of the shorts. Now we'll move on to the waistband. Fold your waistband in half with right sides facing, matching the two shorter edges of the waistband. Sew together using a 1 cm seam allowance. At this point, I like to make a small notch on the fold of the waistband. This will mark your centre front and will help you to align your waistband in the next step. Take your shorts and fold them so that they are right side out. Make sure your waistband is inside out and then slip your waistband over the shorts waist so that the right sides of the shorts and waistband are together. Match up the seam of your waistband with the centre back seam of the shorts, and then match up the centre notch with the centre front seam of the shorts. Pin the entire way around the waistband and then stitch together with a 1 cm seam allowance. Press the seam that you just sewed up towards the waistband. Next, turn the top edge of the waistband over by 1 cm. Press in place the entire way around the waistband. This will enclose your raw edges when we sew the waistband down in a moment. Fold down the top folded edge of your waistband to the inside of the shorts, matching up the folded edge with the original waistband seam. Pin this in place the entire way around your waistband, making sure to keep your waistband flat. Starting at the centre back, sew your waistband down, making sure to sew as close as possible to the folded edge. Backstitch at the beginning and end and stop sewing a few centimetres before you reach your start point so that we have a little hole to insert the elastic through. Take your 2 cm wide elastic and cut to size. Here I am making a UK size 10, so I am cutting my elastic to 26 inches, which is 2 inches less than the waist measurement given in the size chart for a UK size 10. Attach a safety pin to the end of your shorts or a bodkin if you have one. That's what I'm using here. Then from the inside of your shorts, find the small gap you left and start to feed your elastic through, bit by bit. Be careful not to twist your elastic when feeding it through and try to keep the elastic as flat as possible throughout. Also, make sure that you leave some elastic poking out the hole. If you pull it all the way through, you won't be able to attach the 2 ends. Once you've threaded your elastic all the way through, take both ends of the elastic, place one on top of the other and stitch together. I use this stitching method as I find it to be the strongest, but you could also use a zigzag stitch if you prefer. To sew my method, first sew a box across both layers of elastic and then sew across through the middle. Give the waistband a few gentle tugs until the elastic is all enclosed within the waistband. Then sew up the hole you left to insert the elastic initially, following your previous stitching line. To stop your elastic twisting, sew a vertical line of stitching through the centre back of the waistband. This step is optional, but it helps the elastic to stay put. To finish your hem, first press the hem up by 1 cm, then press up again by another centimetre. Then stitch this in place. Give it one last press and then that's it, you're done. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and don't forget to like and subscribe for more sewing tutorials and other sewing content. Thanks for watching!